We're on.
Okay, welcome to the Revere School Committee of the Whole meeting, January 19th. It's 4:30 p.m. And roll call
Mrs. Bronston Rizzo,
here.
Mr. D'Ambrosio, Mr. Ferranti,
Here.
Ms. Gravellisi,
Here.
Mr. Sinella,
Here.
Ms. Ty,
Here.
Mayor Arrigo.
Okay, can we have a motion to jump to number 6, overarching goals?
Second.
Well, somebody make the motion first.
I'll
Motion
make the
to,
motion that we suspend rules and go to item number 6, overarching goals.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed?
Okay, everyone had a chance to look them over?
Yes, I spent some considerable amount of time on them. I think they need some tweaking, and I think maybe we need to, like really dig into them a little bit.
Well, again, this is why I asked everyone to look over and then send anything so that we could all look at it. What people might think might be added and what might be needed. Also, these are the same ones we've had since we developed them since 2012. So I'm sure there are tweaking that's needed.
Well, in my experience, there have been 2 or 3 different iterations of them, and some are better written than others. So if you want,
Carol,
I
this is
will-
the
I'll
original.
simply send to you what I feel are some corrections in language.
Okay, duly noted. And I will also say that Diane brought up a point today on number 2. And although in red highlight, since these are the original goals that we haven't changed at all, it does say goal 2 is the comments are to support our educators, and we can achieve excellence for our students without excellent teaching, and we need to support our professional staff. Diane did make a comment today that she thought maybe it was dictated on us stepping over our boundaries. Danielle, did she talk to you at all on that?
Yes,
Maybe
I
you can
think
explain it.
she did, and I think what she was saying was perhaps the language could be changed just to say the schools committee will support our Revere Public Schools efforts too, and then have it written like that.
Mhm. So
I agreed. I thought that had been changed sometime prior. That's why I think there's probably another iteration on somebody's computer. Because I thought that was the duty of the superintendent, not the duty of the school committee.
And although it says we're to support, it's not, but the words, if we took the red highlighted words out, it doesn't make it look like we supported. We're stating this is what we want, and that's not our jobs. You understand?
Well, it just seemed to me that instructional, I don't know. I just had a problem with the way the whole thing was written. I was surprised that this came up because I thought it had been corrected before.
Does anyone remember another version?
Not really.
Remember discussion, but not any action.
Yeah, I think maybe that was it, or it was done somewhere and then
Shelved.
dropped off the computer
Well,
for somewhere
Carol,
else.
what do you have a problem with? Which part of
Oh,
it?
well, I have
Just the
lots of,
instructional one.
I have lots of English teacher comments, I have lots
How
of
about the
those.
structure of it?
And the structure of it. And then that was my on the second one. I mean, it's My objection on the second one, that I thought it wasn't written so that the superintendent slash administration slash it's this should be in charge of that. I know it does say, Stacy, that the Revere Public Schools will, but somehow or other, I just think that each one of these should start with the Revere School Committee. And I was sure I had made a correction on that last time. I don't know what happened on that.
Everyone but that one, Carol, says Revere School Committee.
And then, I mean, we're certainly not going to leave in the red. Did everybody else get the red?
I sent the red so everyone knew what the comments were related to.
That's what I thought, Stacy, and I thought that was a good idea, but I just wanted to be clear.
So I'm going to suggest everyone look at it, send me anything that you think may need to be changed or tweaked or added. And Carol, I'm sure you can do that. And then I'll also ask Diane how she feels that number 2 might be better worded, or Carol, you can also offer your words. And then we can send out a list to everyone, and that way we'll all have everyone's ideas in front of us instead of starting the whole thing all over again.
Okay,
Does
sounds
that make
good.
sense?
That's fine.
Okay,
Okay, so the next one I skipped, it was number 5, and that would be operating protocols. Again, it's just a list that we started 2012. Nothing has been changed over the years. Asked everyone to look it over, see if there's things that need to be tweaked or brought up to 2021.
Excuse me, Ms.
Well,
Rizzo?
again, not to be picky, but there are,
But Susan has the floor.
oh, sure, go ahead, Susan.
I'm pretty sure that on number 7, we had changed it to the chair and the superintendent will represent the positions of the school committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was too. That's why I think maybe, I don't know who had this, what it was, but that was changed, it seems to me, not only the last time, but even the time before that, Susan.
Yes,
Does
that was,
anyone
somehow
remember
this
when?
version
And I'll make
keeps
sure I
coming
get
up.
the right one. I'm only going by what was online.
I know.
I believe that it was.
It was always my assumption that the mayor and the superintendent spoke to the
Right.
media. That was always my assumption.
And that's why we had changed that a while back. I believe that was about 4 years ago, if I remember.
Yeah, at some point.
I might
Might
still
just
have
change
that
the paperwork.
printed up.
We can change the paperwork.
And what I will say, because I wanted to speak about policies, I think this is where some of it is not being transcribed over into new languages. Many of our policies are not in the policy handbook because no one has updated it. Carol White, after Carol White, there really wasn't anyone other than
Right.
taking care of the ones with, the special needs. Robin has been doing it, but in between, there's probably about 20 policies that we've amended or adopted that are not listed in the handbook, in the policy.
Oh.
So this might be where some of this paperwork is not being updated.
It could be.
So
I-
again, if people can get their red pen
Okay.
Yep.
and make notes, maybe we'll plan a meeting for next week, short, sweet. Because we don't want to, these are things we should be starting the year off fresh with, and I don't want to get into February.
Right.
Everyone in agreement for that?
Yep.
yep.
Okay, and then subcommittees, did everyone have an opportunity? Robin sent them out today. I neglected to leave that page off, and then she sent them out today. Anyone have any questions on that?
On which one did you say, Stacy? I was sorry, I was just marking up the other one.
The subcommittees?
No, which one are you on now? The standing committees?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just a couple of things for consistency, although I thought that was pretty good.
What?
So the whole thing on the standing committees and duties, it seems to me that was what we had changed some of the other things to. For example, I mean, what I'm just looking at is the changes were made to make sure that, you know, as in a good outline, that if you're starting with a verb on one, you start with a verb on all of them. Or if you're starting with a noun on one, you continue on the way. So I think some of these things have been done. And that's how.
Carol, are we talking grammar?
Pardon me?
Are you talking grammar?
Well, not grammar, more punctuation and consistency, but I'd call it usage, yes.
To me, it's
But
all
I
the
think
same.
those are things that have fallen by the wayside, which makes me think that maybe this was not the latest iteration. I think we lost a lot when we lost Carol.
So, okay, so my question is, did everyone look over the duties and responsibilities? Those are all still the same ones since
Yes.
day one. So does anyone have a question with that?
No, unless anybody has any, I don't have anything on my committee, so.
Okay, would everyone be in agreement that we can let Carol take care of the grammatical errors and the punctuation?
Yes.
Because you're, okay. So no questions on the committees? No questions on the duties? Okay, so if, let's say by Monday, can anyone have any of their changes that they think may be needed for the goals and the protocols sent? And then I'll send it out to everyone on a big bullet list.
Okay,
Is that
Also-
possible? And I'll send a reminder.
okay.
Susan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rizzo. Under the standing subcommittee duties, did you add in equity, inclusion, and diversity, the new one?
I didn't, because I
Okay.
really wanted to talk to the group to see exactly what we can actually do to make that, like these committees, we can't just have them in name. We need to start working at, well, we need to work harder on them. And I don't want that just to be a name. So I really
Okay.
would like to talk to Susan, you and Anthony to see, and then also the other committee, what they might want to see come out of here.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I've been also asking a few other districts with their equity, inclusive diversity, what goals they have been forming to get some ideas for us. So hopefully that might help. Hopefully. Okay, motion to go back to the beginning of the Committee of the Whole agenda.
So move.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, you want to take it over? Way to go.
Mrs. Rizzo, I thought you were doing such a great job.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Did you get a text from Anthony? He won't be here until 6 o'clock. Anthony just sent the text, so
Yes, I did get that. Yep.
he'll be at 6.
He said to excuse his tardiness, and he'll be here at 6.
Mrs. Rizzo, I apologize for being late. Where did you go right into the operating protocols?
Yes, that's where we started off. I also explained, Mr. Mayor, that the superintendent had some questions on number 2, and which rightfully so, because even though it says we support, if you take out the red highlighted areas, it doesn't really come off that way. So we are all going to look at it, tweak it, and get back Monday to see what could be better wording. And then Carol's got her English teacher red pen ready to go.
Okay. So we're gonna go back to the item number 1, which is the consent calendar?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Approval of the minutes?
So moved.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye. Roll call.
Oh, roll call required?
Oh,
No.
No, we're just going through to see if we have any questions on it, and then we'll vote the whole thing or not
Okay,
vote
we'll
the whole
vote,
thing.
that's right. Warrants,
Mr.
Mr. Franti.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Cruz won't be here until 5, so, and I'm sure that Danielle probably can't answer the questions because she doesn't do it. So I think we should probably wait for any financials until he comes.
Okay,
So I think we should just skip around a little bit.
sure.
So motion to move to communications?
Yeah,
Is there a second?
second.
Okay, we'll move to communications.
Is there any communications? Checking.
Do we have any?
I didn't see
I
any.
don't see any.
Do we want to move on to the enrollment update?
Yes.
Okay,
A question, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Franti.
Danielle, it's roughly about 7,200, the enrollment as of, when was this done? How far is that different from this year to last year, enrollment-wise, numbers-wise?
I haven't done a cross-check, but I do know our kindergarten numbers were down. I believe they still are. I can quickly look at last year's while we're talking and get back to you.
Sure.
The early childhood looked down too.
Michael, it's going to take a little bit for me to.
Okay. No,
get that.
it's okay. Don't, whenever. Because I thought we'd done at least a couple 300 from this year to last year. Seems like a reasonable number.
Yeah.
Did any other members have any comments that they wanted to make on enrollment?
Well, I was wondering about the high school enrollment. I don't know if you've been able to document that.
I think it's pretty much the same as last year, Carol, within 100 people, I think, the high school.
Yeah,
I think it's within 100 people.
Yeah, it's what, 1967 right now? It
Yeah.
was probably a little with around 2000. Yep.
wow.
So it's mostly the kindergarten and early childhood
Yeah,
where a lot of parents chose not to enroll where it wasn't mandatory, correct, Danielle?
Early childhood, definitely. I'm looking at the kindergarten numbers right now. They are slightly smaller than they have been in the past. I can definitely check back and look at our data from last year, Susan, and get a January to January comparison.
Thank you.
Mr. Sinella?
Danielle, with the, as was just mentioned, kindergarten is not mandatory. What was the projected enrollment? Is that what you're comparing it to? Because it's really an unknown figure.
Right. No, I was just going to go back and look at
Last year.
last year at this time to give us a better, with the ins and outs that happen around this time of year, just to look at
Okay.
an annual comparison.
I think middle school's down a little bit too. I mean, all the numbers are down. It just sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
And just one thing to note, this is definitely a trend that we're seeing across the state.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I think also when it comes to middle school, high school, they want their kids playing sports, so they might be in,
Catholic schools.
private schools or charter schools,
Mhm.
or they got school choice, luckily.
Do we want to move on to personnel items?
Okay.
Yes.
Any members have any comments?
I just have one
Mr. Francis.
question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With Bob Hasselstein as a custodian, are we going to fill that position this year, Danielle, or are we going to go to next year? On the custodian
I
retirement?
believe that position is going to be posted, or it has been posted.
And obviously, we're going to replace the guidance counselor at Seacoast when Maureen retires.
Yeah, she's retiring at the end of this year.
So let's hope we're all back.
And Michael, I believe Diane has on the agenda the custodian position. I don't know if it was pertaining to that or if there's other things she wants to bring up.
Right.
Any other members have anything on the personnel items? Okay,
A vacant custodial. I see it.
we'll move on to the acceptance of donations or gifts, which we have none. And there are no, sadly, no school field trips planned. We'll move on to remote medical days for paraprofessionals.
Danielle, could we get an explanation for that? Or is it something-
Yes.
Is this something new?
They were, Diane worked with their union to give them the same remote medical days that we had given the teachers, so that they are, if they are well enough to continue work, that our students right now, while we're in remote, still receive their support in their classrooms, similar to what we had agreed to with the teachers.
Was that part of their MOA?
I believe that was what she was going to
Making an amendment to it?
bring to your attention, yes.
Okay.
So Danielle, you might not know, but is there a reason why the paraprofessional negotiation team wasn't part of this?
I know that Diane has been meeting with, having conversations with them. I don't think that there was an actual MOA. I don't believe you've seen an MOA. I think it was just an agreement that the union had come to with Diane and Richie. I actually wasn't involved in it, but they, I think they extended this because they had been working with us so positively all along throughout the course of this year. I think that this was extended to them as a result. And as the FFCRA benefit ended December 31st, that was also a reason to explore this.
Okay.
Mhm. Well, they have been terrific, so.
Danielle, is that 7 days going forward from today?
It was,
Or is it
yes,
back in September?
the turn of the new year, no.
Okay.
Upon return, I believe that was the first day.
Any other members have anything on the remote medical days for paraprofessionals? Okay, we'll welcome Matt Cruz. Thanks for jumping on, Matt. And we'll go back. Does the committee want to go back to item number 1, the consent calendar, and go through some of the financials?
Yeah.
Motion to go back to calendar item number 1, warrants.
Sure.
Second,
Okay, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
We will now move back to item number 1, the consent calendar, and go to warrants. Any members have any questions? Mr. Franti?
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Okay, first page, 2829, workman's comp medical expenses seem extremely high, about $104,000. A little explanation on those, please. It's 28 and 29.
Oh, yeah. So that's pulling the wrong object. You can see to the right, it says unemployment on both of them. 64,000 in unemployment and 40,000 in unemployment. So those are 2 of our monthly unemployment bills that we were expecting to be high, and those will be reclassified against the coronavirus relief fund when we do that entry for December 31st. We're able to move September, October, November, December unemployment costs that are related to the COVID-19 against that grant. So the bills have been paid, and then we'll be reimbursed for those dollars. You're looking at September, October bills for unemployment.
So those are 2 months.
I'm not sure why Munis kicked out workers' comp medical in the middle, but you can see on the left it says Division of Employment, and on the right unemployment. So that's those 2 bills.
Okay.
And yes, they are high, but we knew that was coming.
I just have one more, Fred. On page
Yep, go ahead.
4, on page 4, number 117, Houghton and Mifflin, professional development, 23,000 and change. Is that just for professional service, professional development for teachers, or what's that for?
I don't know if Danielle recognizes why that would be them. Yeah.
So that was the professional development day that happened in November, with the 5DP.
Right.
That was our portion of the contribution for the professional development to all staff, in conjunction with districts from the 5DP. Malden and Chelsea also participated.
Okay.
Mr. Sonala?
Matt, on the unemployment, when last we spoke, we were discussing furlough as opposed to unemployment. We've never gotten figures back as to how many people availed themselves to furlough. And now you're telling us that the unemployment is sky high. What's the majority of the people that are seeking unemployment? I mean, I thought everyone was working, so this comes as a surprise to me.
No, this would be the folks who were offered that furlough. The profiles of them would be, for example, the bus monitors, the part-time cafeteria workers, that whole world of folks that we wouldn't have any work for. They're the ones that went onto furlough, onto unemployment, able to step back into their jobs once we move through this. And we're incurring the unemployment costs for them as they go. And then they wrote into the relief funding that the monies that we're receiving can help the city school department to pay for those coronavirus related unemployment costs. So.
Okay, no, okay.
It's September, October, November, December that we will reclassify against the grant. And then we'll be able to begin in January to see. In January, we'll start covering that from our appropriated funds, and we'll see how long this furlough actually goes.
So a majority of our furloughed anticipating coming back to work whenever normal returns.
Yes, and we can directly tie their unemployment claims to being pandemic related, which
Okay.
means reimbursable through the relief fund. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members have any?
Yes,
Guys?
Mr. I have some. Number 110. It says document cameras, but it's a math. And I don't know, is that for the math department?
So math non,
kids?
math non-salary costs would be a broad descriptor of that account that Matt Costa oversees.
Uh-huh.
But he could be purchasing something for math and/or technology and/or science out of those funds. So I can track down that PO and send it so that we can see exactly what it was for. But that's
Yeah, that's not really necessary. I just had never seen anything like that before. So I was wondering if he was starting a new program.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is surprisingly tied to some kind of math stuff that he's doing with them. But I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I can shoot him an email. Thank you.
Okay.
Number 119, the water bottle fill station. Do you know what school that was from?
Yes, that's at the Rumney Marsh. At the middle two numbers of the org signifies which school made the purchase.
Oh.
So that 10 represents the first of the three middle schools. So that would have been a purchase by the principal at the Rumney Marsh.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Number 530.
Whoa.
A gazebo from Home Depot. I'm just curious. I think it would be adorable, maybe, but
So
just
that's,
wondering.
I think gazebo is a is a fancy descriptor for what they bought. I think what they bought was like a tent so that they could have a remote distribution of COVID related supplies out in front of the school.
Aha.
Yeah.
A tent is a little different, right?
There's no gazebo back there. Been there several times.
No,
There's no gazebo.
And just one more, number 533. And I know it's laptops for Immaculate.
Yep.
And I know that that it's required that we give them a certain, I was just wondering, what were the circumstances under which we gave them these? Not that I'm objecting to it, I just would like to know.
Yep. So that fund 13231, that's the ESSER grant. It's one of the COVID
Oh,
relief funds.
okay.
So they allocated a certain amount of dollars for the private schools in your district, both for remote technology
Uh-huh.
and also for cleaning
PPE.
personal protective equipment supplies.
Mhm.
So we made a number of purchases for the private schools in the district out of that federal stimulus money.
And Carol, if you'll remember, they have to do like a needs assessment to work with us to determine
Right.
what it is that they need and show us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chai. Mrs. Rizzo.
Yeah, just to go back to Carol's inquiry on the math,
The document cameras?
yes. Could we kindly have Danielle or Diane inquire about it and then get the information back to all of us? Now that we all have it in our heads, we probably all would like to know what they're about. So if we could put it on them to get back to us, that'd be appreciated.
So one of the things I can tell you is a document camera. There were several teachers that did request them because it makes it easier to show the students the work that you're doing. You can do the work on the document camera. I know Matt does have a small budget, but I can certainly. Do you want to know why he purchased those particular ones or what? He's doing?
No, now
document.
that you explain why, it's perfectly obvious why they would need them. Right, I just didn't know what they were for. So
They show the work live as you're doing them.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Mr. Sinella.
Yes, Matt, you made reference to schools in our district. What other schools are without just only Immaculate, or are there others? Because the one on the Parkway closed.
Right.
So are there any other schools that we're sharing with?
No, the only two districts in that grant was Revere Public Schools and Immaculate Conception.
Okay,
If we were in Melrose or Saugus or
Okay.
somewhere else, there could be 4 or 5.
thank you.
Right.
Mr. Franti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, on page 6, number 208, Norfolk Power Equipment, we bought a Kubota for $34,000 down for the Beachmont School.
Finally, yeah.
Okay, why do we need a Kubota?
I would have to reference that question to Carl. I can attach an explanation by email to that with the actual purchase order. I don't think it's a Beachmont limited use of that. The 340908 account signifies a district-wide usage of that. But I'm going to flag that one and get a couple of sentence explanation with a copy of the purchase order, because that's a large capital purchase. I know it had been something on his radar for a while, and going through state contract took a little longer than we wanted to get the price that we wanted on that. But I'll get an explanation and send it out.
All right, as long as all the schools are using it, that's fine.
Mhm.
Just really want to know why we needed one. If we need it, we need it. I mean, and I just have one more.
Yep.
On page 9, number 302, BCM control for 43,000 building security.
Yep. So BCM is the company who maintains and monitors all security district-wide 24/7 for us. And John can also purchase equipment through that vendor. So that 43,000 can be a combination of background services as well as new cameras that he needed. I can do the same thing and pull the PO on that.
Is that a one-time cost, or are we going to get that like every quarterly or whatever? So it's just once a year.
It's the recurring cost is a lot less than 43,000.
Okay.
That's representing an investment in that.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Gravellisi.
Matt, on page 6, number 214, 15, and 16, emergency elevator services. Which schools now do we have emergencies with the elevators?
Let's see. So we have this is also a district-wide account, so we can't tell off of this snapshot which schools it was.
Okay.
We do encumber an open purchase order each year based off the rates that are charged off of the contract that we process through City Hall's purchasing department, so that we have a certain amount of dollars set aside so that if it's an emergency, there can be an immediate assessment and repair of that. So that would have been 3 emergencies. I don't think there was 3 emergencies in 1 month. I think those could have been stretched out over time, and then Embry would have billed us successively for that work. But same thing, I'll make a flag on that, and we can send a copy of each of those 3 invoices to see the nature of the repair.
Thank you.
You might not see one of those for 6 months, and then we
Right.
may see 3 or 4 depending on how they bill us.
Right, we haven't seen them in a while. That's why I was curious which ones came into the emergency category.
Right, and emergency should not trigger, we had children or teachers locked in an elevator.
No.
3 times, that would be rough.
That would be.
Emergency,
you.
emergency more means in that world, hey, if it's broken, we can't just leave it unfixed for 6 weeks. We have to get that repaired within a day or 2. So that would fall under an emergency response from the vendor.
Thank you.
Any other members have questions on warrants? Okay,
I have a flag on the tractor and the emergency repairs. So we'll circle back on that.
great.
Thank you.
We'll move to the quarterly financial report for quarter 2. Any members have any questions? Mr. Franti? You're on mute, Mr. Franti.
Now I can talk. All right, on page 2 of the general ledger, number 33, we have a negative in the benefits retirement incentive.
Yes.
Was there more than one person retired that got paid for, or just a quick explanation?
Yeah, what's triggering that is the city's offer of an early retirement that we did at the start of the fiscal year. And so a number of folks took advantage of that, which just boosted, especially earlier in the year, the amount of retirement incentive that we paid out. As you can imagine, it was the folks who have had a long-term commitment to the district who were qualifying, who would be most desirous of taking that early retirement incentive. So also a number of those folks qualified for that on our side. So we had not budgeted assuming that back in April. And at this point, that's in a deficit. As we get to the fourth quarter, we'll begin with surplus funds in the 5,000 series to cover that. And if not, we'll resolve it in another way. But that was triggered from the early retirement incentive, which helps us in the left hand. And then the deficit is incurred in paying out the incentives to all those people at once over the summer.
Pat, off the top of your head, do you know how many people took the early incentive?
No, you can see that we spent 116,000,
Right.
and that incentive is 20% of your last year's base compensation. So, you know,
8, 10 people.
right. It's not, at the most, sometimes there'll be someone in there who has a higher salary. So one retirement incentive could be a $20,000 or $25,000 check. Yep.
Do we anticipate offering that again this year?
That's a city side question.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm asking you then.
Yeah, we haven't had conversations about that.
Okay.
You know, I do expect that as we get into budget season on the city side, that we'll probably start to take a look at whether or not that makes sense for some folks. You know, I on the city side, in terms of a budget for next year, you know, I don't expect there to be a ton of money for us to play with, to make investments for additional staffing or things like that. So we probably will be looking at any of these kind of incentive programs that we can provide to possibly, you know, create some capacity in our budget.
And Matt, my last question is just the legal services. The numbers are really running away from us, and I anticipate we're going to spend a lot more with contracts coming up and whatever. I don't know what we're going to, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. Just hopefully there's enough money in the series to take care of it. But my question really becomes is that next year, do we anticipate that we're going to have to budget more?
Yes, this week so the governor's number comes out later in the month. So this week I am in full on version 1 budget building on my side in my office. So one of the things I do is run through any account that either incurred a deficit in the last cycle or is tracking one this year to correcting that in the budget. So the first time you see a version of the budget, anything that there's like a new reality to it that we need to budget more, the superintendent, our team will be recommending that to you. So you'll see that. I forget what I dropped in for an original number for that this year, but it's a lot more than the 85 that we had been tracking at. Also, the 101 in here, it's not fully been spent. Some of that is encumbered. So we have a bunch of money encumbered. And then if we have to do another encumbrance, we'll do that as well this year. But yes, we'll need to increase our legal services budget on that line item in the FY22 budget.
My last question, and this will be the last one. Do we anticipate any retirements this year? It's probably for Diane or Danielle. Do we anticipate retirements this year?
Yes, we've received a handful of notifications already of people's intent to retire. They do have until February 1st to make that known in order to benefit from the retirement incentive that's in the contract. So we anticipate that people will be making their decision in the next couple of weeks. We are still in that trend, Michael. We have very few teachers who are actually at the 80% retirement level. So we don't think that we're going to have a ton of people this year, just as we haven't in the last couple. But there will be at least a handful.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all set.
Brian? Brian?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Mr. Sinella, and then we'll go to
Through
Mr.
you to Diane. Diane, the teacher's contract at one time had intent early by April or something that there would be a bonus. Is that still in the contract? Oh, contract's over this year, so it's got to still be in it. Any of these people retiring, are they eligible for this year?
Yeah, there are a couple of people who will be eligible. That incentive that you're talking about, Fred, is for teachers or administrators. It's actually in, I think, all of the contracts, custodians, secretaries, who have done 30 years of service in the district qualify for that incentive. And there was one time when there was an age restriction on it.
Yes,
And
we
I
had to
know
get rid
Nick
of it.
has informed us that that's age discrimination. It's a form of age discrimination. So we have looked more steadily at the 30-year piece as a cutoff of that incentive.
The people that are left, I mean, in the last 4 or 5 years, it seems like everyone left.
We have
What-
a couple more. We have a couple more in the wings, and a couple of them have given us their preliminary notice. They haven't made it formal. I know they wanted to talk to Lou Albanese first and make sure their calculations were right. So I'm hesitant to say their names right now, but I think by the February meeting, we'll be able to say that. And some of them, Fred, will be names that you'll recognize as having been here for a long time.
What was, is the percentage on salaries or on extra, I mean, is it base salary or extra curriculum or, I've been out so long, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm trying to, it's worthwhile if they can get it, so.
It definitely is. It's a 20% of their base salary. So stipended positions are not calculated in as part of
Okay.
the 20%. But it's still a substantial amount.
Yeah.
When you think about where teacher salaries are now, it's a little bit different than probably when you retired, Fred.
Oh, that's it, right. But now, is it, I know for pension purposes, it's 3 highest years of earnings. What's the wordage for whatever they're gonna get? Is it highest earnings or just the last year? How does that work?
It's just the last year. It's 20% of their last year's salary, which is their highest earning year.
But with everything that's been on, would that affect? I mean, I don't know if there are people who, if they retired last year, would get more than if they're retiring this year because where it's been broken up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but because the bonus is only calculated on the base salary, that wouldn't have an impact. Like if we were thinking of maybe the ELT school teachers or coaches who hopefully still will get a stipend later this school year, but haven't yet, or some of the club advisors and that stuff, because that stuff doesn't get calculated in, they won't be negatively impacted by having waited until this year as opposed to last year. And in fact, they'd actually see the 2.5% or 2.25%
Right.
salary increment that went on to all of our salaries this year.
Okay,
Yep.
so it makes no difference whether it's this year or last year because the base is the base, no matter how you figure it.
Exactly right.
But the schools with the 18%, that stopped last year too. Okay,
It did, and that's one of the topics I have on the list to talk about later tonight when we go into executive session for some
okay.
negotiation talk.
We'll leave it for that, but thank you.
Yeah.
And just an observation about what we have lost in there, how we've been saving money. But unfortunately, there were no degree changes that we could pay for, no extra tutoring, no national board certification, no stipends. All of those things have been eliminated. Not that that would count toward that retirement bonus or anything, but it does perhaps affect, what their salary was. So, and as you know, it's the last 3 years for teachers, except if you're a veteran. If you're a veteran within certain years, it can be only your last year at the Teachers Retirement Board.
Excuse me, Carol, is it the three highest or the last three?
I think it's the last three, but I won't swear to that.
Okay, because somewhere I remember the three highest years, so somebody could change a
Yes.
job and the politicians were trying to eliminate, so I thought they may have changed
Yeah.
the wordage.
I know it's been something that's been in discussion for a long time, and I don't know how it ever fell out. So,
Yeah,
Right,
I
thank
think
you.
it actually is the average of the three highest. And where that might impact somebody is if they were, say, an administrator and then chose to go back to the classroom, where they would have a lesser salary in their last couple of years compared to their highest salary. Like, for instance, if I said I want to go back to the classroom and you guys gave me a teaching job at the high school
Oh,
for the next few years, my salary
Has
would be
anyone
less
ever
than what
done
it is
that?
right now. We
But
have
what
had
about
people
the
over the
school?
years,
But
not
Diane,
from superintendent, but we have had people who took on administrative roles and decided it wasn't for them and went back to the
yeah,
classroom.
yeah.
I remember
Now
that,
that
yeah.
you say it, I
Yeah,
remember one.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But Diane, does that mean that people with the extended day with the 18%, they would be able to use those years rather than this year and half of last year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Rizzo, I believe you had your hand up.
yeah, I did back in the hour when Michael was asking all his questions. But
Thank you.
I will say, I think it was answered a little bit during Fred's question, so I will back off. It was mostly about the base salary and how it was proposed ELT stipends and stuff, so thank you.
Michael, sorry, Matt, one question I had around legal fees and what we're paying for outside counsel is, have we checked to see if any of that is reimbursable through CARES Act? Where a lot of the negotiations have been, centered around our situation with COVID. Is there a case to be made that maybe some of that could be reimbursable through CARES?
It's a question that we can ask. We're going to look at the ESSER grant in a minute, but that's the one that still has some flex in it. So it's a possibility that we can inquire about that. Yes.
Sorry, Mrs.
Wow.
Gravellisi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matt, just a quick question. On page 5, 193, school security is already at 100% burn rate. Why would that be already where we haven't been in school? I'm
All
just
right.
curious how we've used all those funds.
That is the cost for the 3 police officers who are stationed in the district. So we don't pay them on a weekly basis.
Oh,
Oh,
We-
okay.
The city embeds that money in Schedule 19. We reclass that money into the police officers' payroll account, and they pay them down during the year.
Oh.
So we tend to make any of those types of one-shot transfers in the month of November.
Mhm.
This way, the city has the cash flow that it needs to cover those costs. So that's why it's a perfect 0 or a perfect 100%. They gave us that number on Schedule 19, and we reclassified that to the police officer payroll account, And now they're paying those 3 officers on a weekly basis.
Okay, very good, thank you. So I assume that would be the same on number 234 with Amoresco, that's already at 100%?
Exactly the same. That's another chargeback that the city embeds the cost for that 20-year bond for the capital work that we did.
Yeah.
So we reclassify that money to them because they're paying that invoice out of the city side account.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to the financial report through December 31st.
Wait, no one brought up the craziest thing on that report. For the first time in 18 years, you had to reduce your budget in the middle of a fiscal year. That's
We
the
already
big
did
thing
that,
I-
Matt. We went through the $2 million pain. We already did that
We
one.
did that last time. You explained it so well that we didn't have any questions.
Well, seeing that you want a question about that, I will ask you one quick one.
Mr. Ferretti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, on the programs with other schools, it looks like that the budget's about 75% spent. And the bills are absolutely astronomical on a monthly basis. Are we going to have enough money to fund that for the whole year?
Yes, because the circuit breaker reimbursement program chases the expenses. So we've only received 1 circuit breaker payment for this year. Each time we receive another payment, it will reduce expenses right off. So
Do we get
keep in
them
mind-
quarterly, the breaker payments?
Let's see, October, January, April, July. So it's basically quarterly, and usually
Well-
we're crediting the first 2, holding on to the next 2 for an echo effect. But we've only credited 1, so there's a minimum of another $1,003,000 coming to reduce those expenses.
Thank you.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
We'll move on to the financial report through December 31st for all CARES Act or Corona Relief Fund money. Any members have any questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll ask one, just to make.
Sure, Mr. Ferranti, go ahead.
Okay. On the second page, after the caption page, we had unemployment costs in there of about 400,000. Is that part of it reflected of our total costs, or is that a partial of it that we can put under the grant? It was like
So-
399 and change.
Yep, that is reflecting exactly what we intend to have reclassified against this grant by December 31st for those costs. So I think the budget number was 400 and we're at 399, 585. So basically we're zeroing out the allocation for unemployment costs from the first 4 or 5 months of the fiscal year.
If we do not spend the entire grant money, and we have about $1 million available, do we lose it?
That won't happen, but the answer to your question is yes.
Right.
So one
Thanks,
thing
Diane.
I'll point out, if you look at the summary page that Matt provided, almost 900,000 of that 980,000 is in the ESSER grant, the Elementary and Secondary Education Emergency Relief Fund. That grant was always designed to be good until December of 2021. The other grants on this list, the CVRF, the Remote Learning Technology, and the CVRF Food Services grants, they were all scheduled to time out on December 31st, 2020. All 4 grants have since been extended, but we prioritized spending down those other 3 grants before the end of last year, before December 31st that just passed, until the 3rd week in December when they told us that they were going to extend them all for 6 more months. And then we stopped scrambling to get that last $80,000 spent.
Right.
Because now we know we have that money is actually good until next December now. And the ESSER funds, the $890,000 is good until December of 2022. So we actually have another year and a half to spend that money.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. You've answered the question. Thank you.
Any other members have any questions? Okay,
No?
I think that does it for financial information. Unless you want to stick around, Matt.
Well, the food services grant came in very, 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 very late. So by the time I was putting this report together, we hadn't even established that account in the system yet. But we will immediately wipe that 61,000 out for remote food services stuff that we purchased over the summer. So we're on a good track with this. Everybody really hustled to put the immediate money to work, and we'll burn down the rest appropriately as we go.
And those are places too where those grants have been extended that we can look at reappropriating, as I forget if it was Michael or the mayor, one of you mentioned, allocating more funding toward our legal fees that were COVID related. Like that's where we can look at what have we not spent here that we had planned to spend in these grants that now can offset some of that budget item.
Yep. Okay.
We'll,
Thanks, Matt.
thank you, Matt.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Have a good night.
We'll move back down to enroll. Do we want to go back to enrollment data? Or what item would the committee like to
Number
take
three.
up next?
Start with number 3, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll take up item number 3, which is the vacant custodial positions.
Yes, so as the committee knows that since COVID hit and we figured out that we were going to be remote for some time, we decided not to fill some openings that we had in positions that maybe weren't absolutely necessary. While we don't have thousands of people in the buildings, and the custodial positions were one, and we actually have 6 vacancies right now. We've had 6 people either retire or leave and move on. And we're at the point now, one of our most recent ones was Bobby Hass at the West Revere Complex has moved on to become assistant director at the senior services in the city. So, which is wonderful for him. He's great, and I think he'll do a fabulous job there. But it put us at the point where we started to think, we're really at a shortage, and especially in the winter months when we have to think about snow removal and that.
Yeah.
We're coming to the point now where we're short-handed for all of the buildings. And so we did put out 2 of those positions for internal bid among the unit members. There were no bids. The bid closed last week. And so we're going to be opening those up to a public, request for applications. And we'll be working this week to get that posted on School Spring, which will link to the website. So if there are folks, we did receive a couple of outside applications, even though it was only open internally. We have those on hand, but we certainly want to invite the community to apply for those positions, because they'll be open. And then, so we spoke to the union and talked about prioritizing 2 positions for now. We probably want to think, and this will align with the conversation in our regular meeting about reopening buildings. We'll need to fill all of those positions and some other ones. We have a couple of open secretarial positions, and all of that needs to be discussed sooner than later so that we're ready to bring kids back as soon as we can. But
Any
I did
members-
specifically want to mention those 2 custodial positions that we're going to fill sooner than later.
Mr. Sinella.
Through to the superintendent. Diane, again, I'm dating myself. Are the custodial positions still civil service? Is there still such a thing as civil service?
Yes and no. So there's still a civil service list, but they have not offered a test in decades, as far as I know. But when we hire people into quote unquote civil service positions, like when we hire secretaries or custodians, we do still notify the civil service board that we have filled that position with somebody who has not taken the civil service test because there hasn't been one offered. So we still do have to keep track of all of that. And we can tell which of our employees have completed a civil service test and which have not. I haven't heard any indication, and Brian, you probably know better than I would on this. I haven't heard any indication that the state is going to offer another civil service test. So I don't know if that whole method has become a bit dated, but we're still tracking the information and notifying the state.
But
As
even though there
required.
hasn't been testing, is there an existing list?
I believe the state might have a list that would date back, like their list would be people who took the test, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
but usually the list would expire. I mean, I gave
Oh, right,
Carol and I
yeah,
a-
it might have. Yeah, it
Okay.
might have. I don't know, Fred, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Fred, you or Diane hit the nail on the head when she said expired. And the fact that there hasn't been a test since then. I think anyone that was maybe on a civil service list at some point, it's kind of a null and void at this point.
Okay.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Gavelisi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Diane, you said there were 6 custodial positions that were vacant and you're filling 2. Which 2 schools were you filling those
The
for?
2 spots that we're looking to fill right now are at the West Revere Complex. We're down to only 1 custodian there. 3 people, 1 retired and 2 moved on. And so we were running that building with 2 people, which was working, but it's
Mhm.
not enough at this point. And especially with inclement weather, it really should be a 3-person building. We were already talking about if we should have backfilled one of them. But we were kind of limping by with our existing staff and moving people around when we needed to. That's just not viable anymore with only 1 person.
No, not at all. And there were no internal candidates? That's great. That's not hard to
No,
believe.
nobody bid the job. Nope. I guess
No.
people are very happy where they are.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. Thank you.
Mr. Franti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Diane, what are the other schools for the custodians, the openings? What schools are they?
One is in the East Wing at the high school. Oh God, I had them all listed the other day, and let me see if I can put my hands on that, Michael. Give me 1 minute.
Sure.
While you're doing that, we'll welcome Mr. D'Ambrosio to the meeting as well. Thank you for joining, Mr. D'Ambrosio.
Thank you. Sorry I was a bit late. Work ran a bit over, but thank you guys.
All right, I'm gonna have to dig that out, Michael, but we can maybe,
That's fine. So
Keep
you don't
talking while I
feel
look
that
for it.
you don't feel those 4 positions to be filled right now? They can wait until next year?
no, not till next year, but until we're closer to reopening.
Okay.
So my hope really is that we get a lot of great candidates right now and that we fill 2 of the positions and have a number of resumes on hand that we can quickly call folks in for interviews when we decide that we're going to fill those other 4 positions.
Yeah, but if we have 6 and advertising 2, and there's 4 openings, how will the people know what's open?
Well, as always, they're going to apply for a job in the school district.
Yeah.
And Carl and I will decide their placement after that. So I anticipate that we'll get, maybe hopefully 15 or 20 applications. And we can rank those and look at them and look them over and fill in the first 2 and then have the others on hold for a near future position.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other members? Okay, we'll move on to the scheduling of school improvement plan presentations.
Yes, so as you all know, because we talked about this, normally we would be doing school improvement plans in September or early October at the latest, but because we were in such flux this year, we delayed all of our improvement planning. And you did approve the district improvement plan. That's been in the principal's hands now, and they've been working with their school improvement councils and their instructional leadership teams to build their own school improvement plans. And we wanted to try to schedule a time for them to present them to the school committee. And principals are hoping it would be later at the end of next week. We had said that we would do this in January, and here's January half gone already. I don't know where it went, but we were hoping maybe for the 28th or the 29th. And the principals would do their presentations in grade band teams as they have for the last several years. So there would be one presentation from the elementary principals who would talk about what's common in their school improvement plans. And then each principal would talk about what's unique to their school for their school improvement plan. And then we would have a second presentation from the middle school principals in a similar format, and a third presentation from our high school principals in a similar format. So I don't know if folks want to look at calendars and see if.
What time did you want to get started with on either of those dates, Diane?
I think we're flexible to what works for all of you.
I mean,
Are we
either
doing them
date.
all in one day, Diane, or are we spreading them out?
one day.
Whatever you prefer. They're probably, I'm going to say that it's going to take us about 4 hours, maybe 4.5 to get through all of them. So if you wanted to, we could do 2 on one day and 1 on a third day. Or just have a really long meeting. You know, I'm thinking that each one of the 3 presentations will be about an hour. And then there's always a little bit of,
Right.
time between or discussion.
Question and answer period. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, well, their presentations won't be a whole hour. I think they'll be much briefer than that. But maybe, like, especially with the elementary where there's 6 of them, I could see that one going, 45 minutes or an hour there. The middle school where there's only 3 and the high school where there's 2 would probably be significantly shorter.
Yeah. Okay. I'm available.
I am too.
Not going anywhere.
Well, did we come up with the day that we're saying we're available?
28th or 29th. Or both, if we want to do the elementary one day, or that one may be the
Is
longest.
that Thursday,
and then-
Friday next week?
Yes,
Yes,
Thursday, Friday.
Do we start like when they get out of school, like at 4?
Oh, we could. I was looking at during the school day, but. we
Oh,
could,
okay, I mean.
Yeah.
yeah, we usually do
We
it
did it
during
in
the
the
school
morning.
day.
But that's fine. That's even better.
Mm.
Stacy, are you available those days? Where'd you go?
I'm definitely available on the 29th. I'm just gonna have to double check this 28th.
Anyone have any times that work
Yeah,
well?
anybody have any time restrictions that they want us to?
How about 10 o'clock in the morning? I'm
That works for
flexible.
me.
So the only thing that I'll flag is that I think we have a standing RHS building committee meeting
On the 28th.
on the 28th
Yeah.
at 3. So
At 3.
maybe up until 3, but it's just a hold for me. I don't think it's a confirmed meeting yet. But I have that as a hold.
Right, and I cannot remember what we said on the group, if we needed to meet then, or were we
If
gonna
we-
wait until after the February 2nd meeting?
Yeah, they just told us to mark it every other week.
Yeah.
But I have time the rest of that day, so
Okay,
yeah, I can, that the 28th and 29th work for my schedule.
All right, so ideal for my schedule on the 28th would be if we did like a noon to 2 p.m.
That works for me.
That's fine.
Stacy? You said you had something that day?
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to see if I can move it before noon. And I can let you know tomorrow, Diane. I have to call an office.
Okay, and I mean, do you want to look at later, Stacy? Do you want to do 1 to 3? Would that work?
Well, then we'll have to go right into the left field meeting if necessary. No, I'm just gonna try to change it. I'll try to change my appointment.
All right. And then if you want to, we could do the same thing, noon to 2 on the Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think the Thursday one will probably end a little bit before 2 because we'll do just the elementary that day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the Friday will be the middle school and high school?
Yeah.
And Diane, will you be sending us their school improvement plans in advance? How far in
Yes, I know
advance
that
of-
they were going to try to finalize those by this Friday.
Okay, so that'll
so
be
that they
good.
can get them to you for your review.
Oh, good, thank you.
Actually, now that I think about it, they might have said Monday. I think they have a meeting on Monday, the 25th.
They'll send them to us on Monday?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But they definitely are going to finalize it tomorrow.
I think we're definite.
We're definite.
Okay.
So Robin will post those meetings.
Okay, we'll move on to, I think we're moving down to the discussion of reopening schools.
Can we place
Mrs.
it on
Rizzo?
file? No,
No, so there's a motion to place it on file?
please?
Second,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, okay, that will be placed on the table. Or placed on file, I apologize. Placed on file. Any other items that committee members may want to bring up? Dr.
Do we have
Kelly,
any
anything?
teacher openings that we're looking for now?
I'll defer to Danielle on that. I know there are a couple that we've still been trying to fill.
Oh,
We do have one that I just recently posted for a math interventionist for the Wayland School. And that was a position, the teacher resigned earlier in the year and they were unable to fill it, but they feel strongly that they need to fill it. Try again right now.
All right, and I have the openings, Michael.
Okay.
So there were 3 at the Wayland, as I mentioned. That was Junior Garcia, Bobby Hess, and Linda Pasco. Linda retired. The other 2 moved on to other opportunities. At the Beachmont, we had Brian Vesey, who moved on to a position at the city. At Garfield, we had Jean Vidala, who retired. And at the high school, we had Steve Capano, who retired.
Okay.
Any members, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Francie?
Diane, are we running into any issues with the buildings as a whole? Any, improvements that have to be done, or is everything in pretty good shape with all our buildings?
Everything's in good shape. I mean, the 2 big projects that we're going to have, really 3 big projects coming up. One is the new windows at the Lincoln School, new boilers at the Beachmont School, And I know that, Mr. Mayor, did you want to talk at all about the AC project at the Lincoln?
Yeah, Dr. Kelly just mentioned it. We are preparing a bond authorization to go to the council for approval. We've built that into our capital budget for 2021. And we're going to be going forward with that project. With the work being done on the windows at the Lincoln, it obviously makes perfect sense to have the air conditioning be teed up as well. So that will be an item that is going to be part of our capital plan, and one that I know is long awaited and folks have been really patient about, but we'll be very excited to get that underway. So that's just some good news for the families and children of the Lincoln School.
Mr. Chairman, are we doing it this summer or are we just putting it out to bid?
So I know that a lot of work has been done in prep for this to go out to bid. I'm confident that if we get the bond authorization moved through the council in a timely fashion, that we could possibly get that work started, as soon as possible. It's going to have to go out to bid. So I know the bid documents have been prepped, and we've had a lot of conversation with folks who will be prepared to jump on that work when it becomes available. But we may just run into a process and a public bidding process that may take a little bit of time.
Yeah, and with the MSBA process that will be required to go through the window project, that could have an impact in some way on the finalization of the AC project. So we'll have to, we've already talked to Rich Biscay about trying to make sure we're coordinating those so that timing is not interrupted. But one missed deadline on a procurement can cause months of headache. So
Diane, we're going to do the windows first, then the AC, or we're going to try to do them simultaneously?
We're going to try and do them simultaneously as much as we can, and try to get it done, all at once. But there, as with all construction, there could be one aspect of one job that forces a delay in the other job. And that's what we're going to try to coordinate a little bit more steadily. We are going to have to have a vote to fund the both of the accelerated repair projects. So I'll work on that paperwork with the mayor's office, and then the school committee will need to vote on it, and the city council will need to vote on it.
Mr. Sinella, did you have a question?
Yes, Brian, congratulations. Due last, it's about time. I'm just curious with the windows, are they going to be opening? Because the ones now with the bottom part, that was disaster from when the school was built. Will we have an opportunity to see what it is, or who will draw up the specs? Or, we
will. It'll be the process will be similar to what we've done on our other accelerated repair projects. So the MSBA will assign us an owner's project manager. We won't have a say in who that is. But so they'll assign somebody to be our owner's project manager, and they will help us actually do the design bid. So we'll have a say in that and be able to say, give some ideas of what we're looking for. And then it'll go out, the bid will go out, and contractors will, design firms will bid that job to actually design the scope and do the full pricing of it. And then we'll contract, and then it'll go out to bid for a contractor to actually do the work.
Well, I just don't want to see the same mistake they made with 65, 66 when they opened it, where the aluminum and it was no heat. It was a disaster. And you had to block the windows because when you opened them out, somebody could hit their, temple on it. It was crazy. So
Yeah.
again, I'm sure things have changed. People are more safety conscious, and they're not just going to do it for the sake of doing it. But thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other members have any items they'd like to bring up? All right, seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
Right, we will adjourn until our 6 PM meeting in 3 minutes.
Can we have 5 minutes?
3 minutes.
We'll wait for you, Carol.